a high school student who was running for class president, use some campaign rhetoric you'll definitely recognize. Take a look.
I propose is that we build a wall between here and Sebastian River, and we make Sebastian River pay for it.
Are you done?
Thank you all, and I hope I win your vote tomorrow.
Yeah.
Who was on the other side of the wall?
On the other school.
Oh,
he was
gotcha,
blocking
gotcha.
the school. So he actually won the election, but was disqualified after the principal claimed his speech was inappropriate. Now, apparently you can use that kind of language only when you run for actual president of the United States.
Right.
But, I mean, shouldn't she have deemed it inappropriate right afterwards instead of allowing the kids to vote? Because they voted him in. He was having some
kid
fun.
is having,
making light of
right, he's
things.
having fun
Yeah.
with it.
It was satire.
Have we lost, so have we lost our sense of humor?
Well, I think it's because we have, and it's because our discourse has become so uncivil and it's become so complicated that you can't even make fun of the discourse these days. I mean, look at what happened to Reza Aslan over at CNN. He tweeted something.
Well, he
granted,
used
it was a little
expletive.
He used an expletive talking about the president. CNN fired him, and he's a commentator. He is not a journalist.
So
So
but that happened to Kathy Griffin. Apparently, the ones who are not the journalists are in trouble over there. Because, what's his name? Bourdain better watch what he says up in the Arctic or wherever the hell he is. Because the actual journalists don't step over the line, I notice. But the ones who are a comedian, and this one is whatever he is, they sort of have freedom, and then they get the axe.
And if you're going to give the power to the students to make an to have an election, if he's the one they choose, maybe but first of all, I think he's being funny. But if there were some things that were similar to the rhetoric of our president, then maybe you address the student body because he's a reflection of what they wanted. So you can't then come in and play adult and say, you know, we're not going to let this happen. You got to let it go.
So is the bigger problem that it's suddenly become more censorship coming when it comes to this particular guy? Because, you know, I'm never going to stop. Ever. Because for me, that is it's the one thing that I feel, if we were to lose our ability to comment on what we see and how we feel out loud without fear, if we were to lose that, this would not be the United States. Because one of the reasons people want to come here is because you can criticize, you can be thoughtful, you can say what you have to say, and it doesn't matter what it is. There are some things we don't like hearing, but you're allowed to say it in this country. So if we were to lose that, who are we?
But he was doing a typical comedy thing, really. You take what's in the zeitgeist and you put it into another situation.
Great
it was
use of the
actually
word,
smart.
Joy.
It was a very smart
I feel like the responsibility has to fall on us a little bit to just not be offended so easily, though. I think we're falling into a place that's scary where the second you hear something that might offend, there's a rush to silence that person, to fire that person, to get that person out of the room. What we have to become more comfortable with is, there's a line up there somewhere. You can't threaten somebody's life. There are things that you can't do, but
apparently you can.
Right. Well, but within this space, I think we have to find a place where we can express ourselves freely and not be so willing to be like, fire that person, get them out of the room. I don't want to, or silence them, because that's what you're right. This is not the United States of America if you don't have a whole bunch of people that feel differently about things and can joke about them and can make people laugh about them.
But it is the bedrock of our democracy. But do we also have to take into consideration what we say? Because there are things that have been okay for people to say for many, many years. And the groups that they're said about are now saying, I'm sorry, that is not funny, and use your own people to make fun.
Yeah, and I think if you work for a network, I think that's a good point, but if you work for a network like a news organization, I think you bear a different responsibility because contractually you may not be able to say certain things, or then you're representative of that brand.
That's right.
But the idea that like a kid running for an office in a school can't make a joke, that puts us in a scary place to me.
Well, it's all scary. It's all scary. But you know what's not scary? Commercials.